Okay, very nice. So we are live, Kristen. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah.
So for those of you who are watching, my name is Tim Woda. I'm the CEO and founder of White Peak. And I am joined by Kristen Stith, who's the president of White Peak Branding. And we are in this series that we've been going through on Tuesdays and Thursday mornings at 10 o'clock in partnership with Crossover Communications. So we're kind of co-hosting this series. And the series is titled Marketing in a Slow Economy, which we all find ourselves in now, Kristen, here quite unexpectedly when the year started. I don't think any of us imagined we'd be where we are, but here we are. So.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me. And I'm hoping that we can offer some type of insight. I think a lot of our internal dialogue that we've been having are things that we need to be sharing with business owners. So I think that was, a big reason why we wanted to spin up this series, because I think that there's a lot of information that we're talking about amongst ourselves because we have access to a lot of businesses.
Right.
We have various clients and we can see how what different choices different businesses are making right now and which ones are smart and which ones we do not think are so smart, and also based on our experience too. So hopefully this is adding value to other.
Absolutely. So we've been focusing on different things each week. So we've been capturing about ideas around marketing. We talked about social media specifically at one point. We talked a little bit about PR at one point. So today we're going to focus on really two topics. One is around the startup mentality and why that's relevant now. And we're going to then kind of transition into marketing and branding within a startup mindset. So let me throw this out for you.
Sure.
Kristen, I think like you, when I started White Peak and when I started other businesses, I had my brain wired for entrepreneurship, right? Mm-hmm. And I think most business owners, that's where they find themselves when they enter into the process of starting a business. And, I like to think of entrepreneurs as a little bit crazy, but at the same time, what makes them interesting, and all entrepreneurs are a little bit interesting, is that they have this unshakable confidence in themselves and in the future that they hope to create for themselves and their family and their community. And it is through this uncertainty that they see opportunity to create this future for themselves, right? Whereas a non-entrepreneur looks to certainty really as their comfort zone, right? And when they don't have certainty, they tend to demand it from their boss or their organization or their society. And they see uncertainty as a lack of control, where the entrepreneur sees uncertainty as a time to control their outcome. Sure. So there's this huge mental difference between entrepreneurs and non-entrepreneurs. And that's not to take anything away from non-entrepreneurs, but we find ourselves in a situation where businesses that were maybe post-startup mode, right? So they've been profitable and they're past startup, now suddenly see themselves sort of like startups again, don't they?
Yep. No, I totally agree with that. And I even think within White Peak, us spinning up these Tuesday and Thursday mornings, we weren't doing this prior to COVID-19, and we are now, and we're excited about it. And I think, like you just said, either you're going to look at this time as an entrepreneur and get excited about it, even though it is scary. I don't want to, neglect that. You're either going to get excited about this time, or you're going to be mortified about this time because it's out of your control. But I totally agree with you. Are you going to bear down, or are you going to fight?
Right. Yeah. It's interesting because George Bernard Shaw once said that the reasonable man adapts himself to the world, and the unreasonable one persists in trying to adapt the world to himself. And therefore, all progress depends upon the unreasonable man. Mm-hmm. And I think where we find ourselves here is that, and we're going to kind of transition into this idea around startups, but what we're finding ourselves in is that the reasonable man, the reasonable woman who's running a business today, would basically say, oh my gosh, the world is imposing a certain way upon my business today. And I just have to, I have to be shut down. I have to be locked down. Whereas I think the unreasonable man or woman, the entrepreneur, is looking for a way to adapt the world to themselves. And so that's really, I think what we're going to kind of talk about today is this idea that we need to revisit the entrepreneur mindset, the startup mindset, and what are some characteristics of startups. I've been involved in 5 startups. And what I wanted to do is I wanted to, I guess, start off by sharing, I think, 5 tips to rekindle that startup mindset. I think when let's start by defining startup. So startups can be in various stages. They can be what I would call pre-revenue. And some businesses today unexpectedly find themselves in a situation where they're not generating revenue. So they're very much like they were when they first came up with the idea of their business. So they're pre-revenue. Then you've got other startups that are post-revenue. So money's coming in, but it's pre-profit. So they're not profitable right now. So maybe those are businesses which, they're still able to bring in customers. They still have some subscribers, but they're seeing things have slowed down during the season where they're not profitable. And so I would put most startups into those 2 categories. And there are 5 things that I think all startups need to do to be successful. And the first thing that they need to do before a product is ever built, a service is ever delivered, is they have to assemble the right team. And what I've learned, Kristen, is that when you have a startup, having a team comprised of entrepreneurs is more important than having a team comprised of domain experts.
Sure.
I would, an entrepreneur will tend to they won't let perfection be the enemy of good, and they'll get things done and they'll move the ball forward even in the face of a lot of challenges, where a non-entrepreneur will tend to look at lack of certainty and things we've talked about. So I would say step 1 is that if we are talking to businesses who are finding themselves in where they need to be thinking like startups, and if they do have to make cuts, and I'm not advocating for cuts for businesses today, but I'm saying if you do find yourself in a situation where you're having to slim down your team, really keep in mind who are the entrepreneurs on your team versus who are not entrepreneurs. And the second thing I would say is once you have the right team assembled, you have to cultivate relationships. And so that's challenging right now when we're relying upon Zoom calls, but cultivating relationships amongst your team is super important. They need to almost function like family. And so startups really need to look for ways, and businesses today need to look for ways to keep their teams connected even when they're socially distanced. Okay. Third thing I would say is they need to figure out who their target audience is. So in a boom economy like we've seen for the last 3 years, businesses could just broadly market, broadly message, and they could cast a very wide net and be successful. In a slow economy, or when one's a startup, one has to really nail down who their target customer is. And we talked in an earlier Facebook Live, Kristen, about knowing your cost to acquire and lifetime value so that you could focus on the perfect customer. And so I think that leads into the 4th thing, which is maintaining a consistent brand and message during a startup phase can be hard, but it's really important. Startups have a tendency to change a lot. And in a world where we get different news every day, that can be tempting. But I think it's really important to develop and maintain a consistent brand and message. And then obviously there's different marketing strategies that are unique to startups, which we'll close out with. But I want to spend some time, Kristen, because this is your domain expertise around this branding piece. If you were giving counsel to a startup today or a business which is finding itself in a startup-like situation overnight, what kind of advice would you give people about their brand and their messaging right now?
Sure. Let's first talk to the business that is still functioning right now. They're still open for business, not necessarily brick and mortar, but I'm not excluding brick and mortar, but the businesses that are open, but business is just slow right now because the economy in general is slow. We're not all going out and spending money.
Sure.
I think that one thing I'm seeing brands do right now that are doing a great job, ask your customers for what it is that you need. Let them know that you're open. Let them know things that you need. Something specific that Tim and you and I have been talking about is if your customer maybe is not necessarily able to give money right now, ask them for reviews. Right now is a great time to blast out an email and just say, hey, we need help right now. And there's a way that you can present this to where you're not desperate, like
Sure.
you need to present your customers as their savior, as your savior, but you want to ask, like, be bold, tell it is what you're looking for. I need reviews. We need reviews. Now is a great time to remind all of your customers where they can find your products in the event that you're in distribution. Just get out there. The one thing that you should not do is get quiet right now.
Right.
So if you have done a good job in building a loyal customer base, you are not going to be bothering your clients by jumping in and telling them, hey, we're here and we're open and this is what we need. I've been aware a few businesses have come up in my feed consistently and in my email, and they're making an ask. Gary Vaynerchuk wrote a book called Jab, Jab, Right Hook. And it's based on the concept of like jab, jab, give value to your customers. And the right hook is come in and ask for the sale. There's nothing wrong with coming in and asking your client base what it is that you need. And anyone can give a review right now. Tim, if you want to touch in a little bit maybe of like review plugins or options that you can do, but everyone needs reviews. Everyone has time to give you a review right now. So I don't think that there's anything wrong with making it clear what it is that you're asking for right now.
Yeah, I think there's different types of reviews, and you need to know what kind of reviews are important for your specific business, right? So there are some businesses that sell different collection of products or services. And in those situations, you may really want to be asking your customers for product or service specific reviews that are going to be left on your website. Okay. So if you have a Shopify website, for example, we tend to recommend judge.me. If you're a business which provides a wide variety of products and services, maybe you're a restaurant, right? So you've got a different situation these days. But you might want to also be asking for Google My Business reviews or Yelp reviews or Facebook recommendations. I would, move people towards Facebook recommendations probably more today than I would have in the past, simply because people are spending more time on social right now. And so those recommendations are going to come up in people's feeds and be more accessible.
Absolutely. So in regards to ask, like reviews is just one of them, but I think also too, in the way that you are communicating is now is the time for, and here's the thing, we're just getting back to the basics here. None of this has changed.
Yeah, this isn't new news, right?
No, right. We're not, none of this is new. Marketing hasn't changed. The importance of marketing hasn't changed, but maybe just a lot of us or businesses are realizing how important it is now, but nothing has changed. The importance of this, the practices, the drill has not changed. But be a human. If you're a business that typically likes to hide behind a logo or likes to hide behind the we voice versus the I or the us, now is the time to start showing your face. It's time to start building a personal relationship with your audience. The businesses that are already doing it they're gonna make it through this, I think, if they're coming out and making their asks. Because I'm seeing businesses who are jumping on Facebook Lives and they're building relationships with their customers and they're making their ask. They're saying, here's what I need. Here is how this current situation is affecting me in the business. This is what we're looking for. I mean, be transparent and be human. Don't hide behind your logo if you can help it. Now is the time to be a human, be a face, be a life.
Yeah, it's funny because you and I were talking this morning about even email marketing. So I have had countless conversations over the last 3.5, 4 years with businesses where I've looked at their email marketing campaigns and I said, hey, you're sending an email that goes to out with a generic email address. Maybe it's info@company.com or sales@company.com. Number one. Number two, the email signature on that email that you're sending out to your customer is coming from, the, company team, or it's coming from the logo, the brand. And I've counseled them and said, listen, you're going to have higher open rates, higher click-through rates, higher conversion rates, higher brand loyalty and repeat customers if you will send this from the CEO. Send it from the founder. Now, you don't have to send the email from their actual email address, right? Like, Kristen, your email address, if your email address was kristenstiff@whitepeak.io, maybe the email comes from ks@whitepeak.io, and it's signed by Kristen Stiff, the president of White Peak Branding. But to your, and what's funny, Kristen, during this boom economy that we've seen, so many companies have said, yeah, the CEO doesn't want to do that. The founder doesn't want to do that. And what's interesting is that is precisely what they did when they were in the startup mode. They connected with people in a human way, and they made use of relationships. And so what they used to be able to get away with during this boom economy, I guess what we're saying here is this has always been good advice, but people are going to need to take it now. Right.
Yeah. And consumers, so as humans, we are inherently nosy, right? We want to know about people's lives. So if we get an insight on direct communication with a brand that we really, really enjoy, we love it. Or if we get to know that face behind that brand or the owner, people love it. We want to learn more about people. So typically, there's the founder or the CEO that's like, you're not going to make me get on Facebook, are you? And I'm like, hey, it's your choice. People want to see you. People want to hear from you. I mean, I'll take my father as an example. My father is a small business owner in Southern California.
What kind of business?
He runs an athletic training facility, and then he also runs a softball travel ball organization. Okay. And my dad is approaching 60, and has never been interested in jumping on social, but I'm watching my dad jump on Instagram Live right now and still delivering content and information and lessons to his students. And I just never thought that I'd ever see the day where that has happened. And it is a great opportunity, because what my dad's seeing in it, this isn't as bad as I thought it was. Or I'm realizing it's not about me. I'm realizing I'm actually helping my clients and helping my customers and helping my business. It's not about me. So I'm watching a lot of business owners having to open up and get uncomfortable, but that just goes right back to the startup mentality. Is there anything comfortable about being a startup? No. And if there is, if you are comfortable, you're not doing it right. You're not pushing hard enough.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, being a startup is driving 60 miles an hour towards a brick wall and kind of counting on one of a handful of things happening. One, that the wall will just magically disappear. Two, that you'll go so fast, you'll pick up so much speed that somehow you get lift and go over the brick wall. Or three, that somehow you will crash right through the brick wall and survive and come out on the other side. So, being in a startup mode, and again, I just think that's where we are right now as businesses are starting to have to think about themselves as startups again. This is where they find themselves, and it's uncomfortable. I think the difference here, Kristen, is that when people started their businesses initially, they went into it with a sense of enthusiasm and optimism. And it was a little bit painful. I've done this 5 times. I know that it's painful. And then we get past that stage of being a startup where we're profitable and we feel like we've made it, and we can move from being entrepreneurs to being business managers. Then we wake up one day and the world has done some jiu-jitsu on us. And suddenly we've been thrown back into having to be a startup and think like an entrepreneur again. And it's not by choice. So I think that's what's different this time, is that it's being forced on us.
Right. I'm hearing consistently everyone was at the top of their game on March 1st. All these businesses, they're like, man, I was opening up another restaurant. I was looking at another location for my gym, or even individuals. I was at the top of my game in March. And then all of a sudden, other plans, like the universe has other plans.
Yeah, yeah. So here's what I'm going to do. I want to transition these last couple minutes. I want to give 7 startup marketing tactics. So these are marketing tactics that startups can do, and they can also do them and be successful with them during a slow economy. So what's interesting, Kristen, is that 2 of the businesses which I've been involved in starting happened during the last 2 economic downturn. One of them was in the 2008, 2009 Great Recession. Started a business there with my brother, which ultimately just recently actually sold. And the another one was started right after the dot-com bubble burst, and we had 9/11. 2 inopportune times to start businesses, but I didn't know any better. Ignorance is bliss. And so I want to share some, 7 different marketing tactics that we put to use during a time when other people were saying, you can't start businesses now, it's impossible. Just like there are people today saying, businesses can't thrive right now, it's impossible. So number 1, businesses should start a referral program.
Yeah.
Start a referral program. Make use of social media to tell your favorite customers about it, and basically encourage people to refer business to you. Okay. Launch a referral program. Get creative in how you do it.
And it's cheap.
It's cheap, right?
It's expensive to get new customers. It's cheap to get more money out of your current customers.
Yeah, and the beauty of a referral program, Kristen, is that it's a pay-for-performance model. You don't pay effectively, I'm using pay kind of loosely here, unless you get a customer, right? So if I say, Kristen, I'm going to give you 50% off on your next free delivery on your next meal if you refer a customer to me and they buy something, right? I give you nothing unless you refer me a customer. Okay. Startup marketing. Okay. Number 2, create a challenge that gets your early adopters. Now I'm using startup language, your early adopters involved. Today, I would modify that slightly to say, create a challenge that gets your most loyal and people that are passionate about your brand involved, right? So maybe you sell you're a clothing company and you have certain designs that are unique to your business. Create a challenge that says, over the next week, we're going to give away $150 worth of product to whoever creates the most creative video showcasing our product. Something like that. Create a challenge that gets early adopters or brand loyalists involved. Again, it's free. Okay, it costs you nothing. What's beauty is that it taps into the people who are most vocal and most in love with your product. Okay. The third thing is repackage your offers. Okay, so you may have had a certain offer for your product, and I don't care whether you're B2B, you're B2C, or B2B2C. It doesn't matter. Look at your offers and repackage them so that you have something that is really, really geared for a low entry point. Okay. One of the things that startups do, a mindset that they have, is they sell first and perfect later. They never let perfection get in the way of good enough. And so right now, we have to be thinking like salespeople. And I don't think it's insensitive to think about how you still have to get sales in order to keep your business alive. So think about your offers, repackage them. And one way to do that, Kristen, for startups, and again, we're all startups now, is to create exclusive offers. Okay. So if I have a product, which I say, look, this product costs, $100 to purchase. Maybe what you do is you come up with a special offer that says, over the next, 90 minutes, if you buy on our website, you're going to get, $150 worth of product for only $100, so come up with an exclusive offer that's unique. Number 4, contact influencers. If most people know about things like Facebook and Instagram, and there are influencers there, but I want to throw out two specific sites that most businesses can find influencers on. They can go to Quora, that's Quora, Quora, and Stack Exchange, and they can run searches on those. Those are like forums, and they're going to find people who are experts and authorities and influencers on their particular domain. Get in touch with these people and start to build relationships with them and get them involved in talking to the world about your product. Number 5, team up with other brands, right? Just like we've teamed up with Crossover Communications to do this Facebook Live. If you sell products, are there ways that you can package up your product with other brands? It's an inexpensive way to multiply your reach, okay? And tap into shared resources. Number 6, tie your brand or product to a social cause. That's a go-to strategy for startups, and it's literally been delivered to us on a silver platter. Kristen, you talked this morning when we were talking, and you shared some ideas around what does that mean in a COVID-19 situation. Can you kind of share some of those thoughts real quick as we wrap up?
There are so many initiatives right now, and if you are going to sound the trumpet about your brand right now, which you should, it would be ignorant to not acknowledge what's going on around us, because it's affecting everyone. It's affecting everyone around us. So for example, one of our clients, they sell energy bars, but we found an initiative that's local to the Reno Tahoe area where we're collecting, we're not doing it, but we're collecting goggles, old goggles.
They're collecting goggles, yeah.
Yeah, and so we're trying to find a way to get involved with that, because that kind of fits the target audience that we're working with. So that's just, it's great content. It's a way for us to get involved to help out with what's going on right now. That's one small example. And that's just right now. I mean, there's a bigger effort that you could always participate in outside of, profit beyond purpose beyond profit,
Right. Definitely doing that now is almost easier than ever, right? Because there's something that's top of mind that everyone cares about. And last but not least, as far as startup marketing, start SEO as soon as possible. Smart startups realize that it takes 4 to 6 months for an SEO campaign to really show its fruit, right? But it's kind of, I liken it to bamboo. If someone is growing bamboo, not that there's a lot of bamboo farmers here in Reno, but if someone's growing bamboo, what they'll find out is that it takes a very long time for bamboo to break through the soil and grow. But once it comes out of the soil, it shoots up faster than almost any plant. And that's the way SEO is. The trick is you have to get the seed in the ground. The sooner you get the seed in the ground, the sooner it pops through the soil. And when we're going through a slow period, now's the time to generate that valuable content. Your team probably has more time to create content or to work with your SEO agency and get that campaign started so that when we start to come out of this slow period, your shoots are bursting through the soil, right? And you're benefiting from that. So those are the 7 marketing strategies. So Kristen, we've got this video. We're gonna obviously save this on Facebook so people can share it. Thank you so much for giving up a half hour of your morning to share.
No problem.
Cool.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
Wonderful. Well, we will be on again on Thursday, and that's at 10 o'clock. So hopefully you can make it. And good luck to you, and everybody, please stay safe. Thanks so much.
Bye.